folks, welcome back to the Dice Odyssey. I'm Kaz, and today I'm going to be bringing to you a review of a game called Burning Rome. Rome's Nightmare. This is from Sun Tzu Games. It's for 2 to 4 players. It goes for about 20 minutes or so, and it's for 12 and up. This is basically a card combat game with 4 different factions in it, ranging from Rome to Carthage and so on. And it basically does a lot of retelling of history, right? It's telling you exactly how these battles went. There's even a rule book in here dedicated to some of the simulations of what happened in specific battles with specific factions, right? Different empires and things like that. So this was really exciting to get to the table, but did I end up liking it? Well, let me go ahead and show you just a little bit of how it plays, and then I'm going to go ahead and give you my final thoughts. This is going to be a general brief overview of the game. This by no means is going to cover every single rule in the game because there's some setup changes and differences depending on how you play. You are able to deck build in the game, or you can go with pre-set up armies and command strength or command points and army strength and things of that nature. You also have, which I thought was actually a very cool feature of the game, the Ancient Battles book alongside your rule book, which also includes actual historical event battles that took place, and you can take command of those generals and their armies, and it also gives you command strength and things of that nature to go for. And it goes according to what actually happened in history. So that's kind of really cool. So anyway, that's there if you want to try it. But like I say, we're just going to cover just a quick overview. I'm going to go kind of into an idea of, we're already in like the second round of the game, or the second turn of the game. The other players already played their turn, so we're going to go ahead and play in turn. Within your deck, you're going to have at least one general. For example, we're going to have Publius Cornelius Scipio. I can't remember if that's Scipio or Scipio, but anyway. And he's got several different kinds of abilities. Now, when you're looking at cards in general, you're going to have a couple different types. You're going to have these tactics cards, which can be played according to how many command points you have, and they allow you to go ahead and do whatever ability is on that card, okay? In the game, you're going to be given a player board, and you've got your army strength, which is represented right here, and you've also got your command points. This is basically your monetary value, your money, okay? This allows you to put however many cards out according to how many command points you have. The goal of the game is to destroy the opposing army by removing all of their army strength, which is up here, or reducing their command points below 0. That's going to be routing them. So destroy or rout, you have 2 choices. This is your round tracker. It's also your battlefield. And as you notice, it's got these little lines right here. That represents there's going to be 3 columns that you can play your soldiers into. And that's going to basically be different areas from which you can attack or defend. If these 2 elephant troops attacked right here, well, you better darn sure make sure you have some people here, some soldiers that can actually defend against that, because they have attack values of 6. That could destroy your army within just 2 or 3 turns if you don't have something there. And every turn, you're going to basically just, move this little guy up, as you go. If it's your very first turn, you won't be able to actually attack. You're basically setting up some of your columns, but and then the same goes for the other player's turn. But once your second turn comes around, then you can go ahead and start applying damage to the other army. Now the cards are laid out pretty simply. Basically, these are going to be your attack values, and I'll explain these in a minute. These are going to be your defense values, and depending on how they're placed and what's placed on top of them, you're going to be using one or the other. Also, most of your cards are going to have different kinds of abilities that you can use. This one, for example, is an ongoing ability. You're also going to have like instant abilities. For example, the minute you play this symbol here, you may play 1 medium unit for free. So if you have another medium unit in your hand, for example this one will be played as well. And then what you're going to do is you're going to choose which column to place them in, and then you're going to determine whether or not you have enough command points. This is your command point cost to be able to place that on the board. So if I was going to play this, for example, he's got a 1 defense, 1 defense. Either way, it's going to be a 1. I could play that right there if I wanted to, and then it costs me 2 to do it, so I'm going to move that down 2. I could continue to play cards out of my hand as long as I have enough command points to do it and I have cards in my hand to do it, okay? Now that ability kicked in, so if I wanted to, I could go ahead and put another medium unit out there. So why don't we just go ahead and cover this column up just to be on the safe side, okay? Now that one cost me nothing. And again, if I had another medium unit, which I do not, I could have played it again for free. Now, at this point, I could continue to play cards out of my hand, and obviously, I want to try to stop these war elephants from destroying me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and play this. It's a cost of 2, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cover up that right there. It cost me 2 on the command points, and now I have a little bit of better defense against the elephants, okay? So for example, now this is where this is going to come into play with these 2 different styles of numbers. If you notice, the arrows here are going to be covered up, okay? Now what's going to happen is, whenever I actually get around to attacking this person, only that top number on the covered up card, the 2 there, and the bottom number on the covered up card, or on the uncovered card, will be considered attack value. And what you're basically doing is you're adding those together. So 2 plus 1 equals 3. That means I have a 3 attack value. And if I was actually attacking this elephant, I'd have to go against this 5. And basically you're just doing simple math. Well, right now I can't do anything because I don't have enough to overcome that 5. Right? So that attack value is null and void at this point, right? Now columns can only be 3 cards in length unless you have a general which can then float as it goes, and the general doesn't get covered up. The general just keeps on covering up even if you play other cards out there. Like if I played this card here, the general would cover it up even if it was already there. And now if you're looking at defense, it's going to work very similarly like it did to attack. The top one here is going to count for defense on the covered card. So for example, that 1's going to come into play. But the defense for siege on the uncovered card, that's going to be the bottom variant here. The top one doesn't matter. It's going to be just like the attack. So right now we have a 3 defense against their 6 attack. That still means 3 attacks coming through. So if this army decided to attack me right now, if I was just going by this column, they would hit me for 3. Boom, boom, boom. Okay? Now here's the other thing. Anytime that you place like something on top of another, like when it comes to these abilities right here, like the ongoings and things like that, if you place something else on top of it, it covers up that ability. That ability is moot now. It's covered up, you can't even use it anymore, and the top card ability then comes into play and takes effect, right? So that's a possibility that you might have something good going on, but if this army is just waylaying you, you got to keep putting cards with maybe some more defense on them and things like that, even in a certain column. You know, that's going to cover up maybe an ability that you need at that point. So you have to be very, very careful whether or not you're going to cover that ability up. Now, there are ways to maneuver cards around, but you have to use special abilities and things like that to do that. Now, normally at the beginning of your turn, you could choose whether or not you want to gain 2 command points, or do you want to draw 1 card. Okay, so in general, that's basically how it's played. Again, I didn't cover every single rule, but you get the idea. That's pretty much how you play the game. Did I like it? No. Okay, let me tell you why. It's not a hard no, but it's definitely a no. I was not a big fan of this. Let me go into some of the actual positives, because there are a few. I like the idea that they definitely included a simulation book of different battles, right? There's 2 different rule books, and one of them's a simulation book. It explains, you know, what kind of troops to have. It basically gives you setup for different battles and what's going on, and command strength and things of that nature. I thought that was cool. I was excited to try those. The other thing was that I liked how quick it was, okay? The artwork on the cards was decent. I kind of wish there was a little bit more variety when it came down to it. The artwork never really popped off the board. That was one thing. The component quality was actually quite good. The card quality was good. I liked having the little meeples for soldiers and things like that when it came to, you know, the counters. I liked having the battlefield. The battlefield was cool, like the way that it was laid out. Now, when I sat down with it, my first play of it, I was like, oh man, how do I feel about this? You know, it was almost kind of how I felt about Rising Sun first time I played it. I wasn't a massive fan of it. The battle system I didn't really care for the battle system that much, but I warmed up to it over subsequent plays. This one I didn't warm up to. I don't know what it was. Well, I do know what it was. There were several things in here that bothered me about this game. Now, the game itself, it seems to be decently designed. It's not a knock on the design or anything. But there's a couple things I had a problem with. One, I did not like how easy it was to beat up on someone else and they just really didn't have much chance of coming back from it, okay? It feels like, I don't want to say runaway leader in this game because, you know, I don't know. It just feels like you're getting beat up. If you're already on a tear on somebody, unless they draw a very specific card to make a stop to that, there's very little chance of them coming back from it. And getting beat down an entire game, in multiple games even, is not a lot of fun. You know, some games they do it well. You're like, oh yeah, okay, well, the minute I get this card, you know, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna whoop you. But the thing is, you only have so many command points, army strength, and all of that, that by the time you draw a card, you may very well be at your last straw, right? It ain't gonna take but another turn to take you down. Another thing that I kind of wish the game had, I like the combos, I like the idea of having the generals in there, but the one thing that I had a problem with was the fact that, like, you might have a specific power on a certain column, right? Which, by the way, I'll give it a pro for that. I like the idea of being able to shift columns, but the problem was you could only do that when it came to special abilities and things like that. And you're not guaranteed to get those out of the deck. Yes, you can deck build. Yes, you can kind of build how you want. But if you're not pulling the card that you need at a specific time, you're probably going to get reamed. And reamed hard. Yes, while you do have some strategic ability to move between columns, I wish that the card combos would have worked better, because, you know, when you're putting another card out and you're covering up another card on another column, you're covering up something that works, you know, like a specific ability of each character or each soldier or division. You're covering up something that you may need in that time. And yeah, there's some strategic thought into which column to put it in. But if I'm getting beat down over here, I don't have a lot of defense, I'm going to try to put that guy there, even if I'm covering up another ability probably, because I'm trying to put more defense. And now when it comes down to the actual warfare, I never once felt like I was actually in a battle. Right now, granted, I need a gun, I need, you know, fatigues and all that, but I'm just kidding. But I never felt like, I felt like I was adding and subtracting numbers the entire game, and it just wasn't fun, you know? I felt like I was doing math more than anything else. Now again, the pro on that was it ended quickly, right? And after my first game, I was like, let me give this obviously more chances. And the multiple chances after that, it just didn't bring me back to it. You know what I mean? It just didn't enthrall me. I was never excited to sit down after that first game. And overall, I have to give this game a pass. I was not a fan of it. I really thought I was going to like this. I really did, because of all the history behind it. You can tell they did their research, right? You can tell they did their research on it. But, you know, and even my friends across from me, when I played with them, some of them were like, well, this is okay for a quick game, you know. I mean, some of them did like it okay. They weren't like floored by it. I personally just didn't like it at all right? Again, there were just too many cons in this game to overwhelm the pros. And so ultimately, yeah, this is going to be a negative review, and I hate to do that, but this is just where I'm at with it. I personally, as of right now, give this Joker about a 4 out of 10. I just can't see myself coming back to this. Now again, you may end up liking it. Again, there are some decent pros to it, but for me, the cons were just too high. Thank you again. You have a blessed day, and game away. Video is brought to you by Fallen Dominion Studios. Check out their website at fallendominionstudios.com.